nice and tight. Do you notice that we're putting the eye on the top of the hook? We do that because I want the eye on the bottom so that the hook is riding up, makes it much less snag proof. Okay? You put it on the other side, it's going to be pulling through the water with the hook down. You want the hook bend on the top. Okay? Now, the next step is we're going to attach some bucktail. This particular piece of bucktail is one I shot in Kansas 2 years ago. And I've got some blue here.
Seriously?
Seriously.
You got blue deer in Kansas?
Keep in mind, when this fly is going through the water, it's going to be upside down. It's going to be reversed. So, if you think of most fish, which side of the fish is the lighter color? The bottom or the top?
Bottom.
The bottom, okay? So if this is going to be the bottom, what color ought I probably to put on first?
Blue.
The blue.
Oh.
Because I want white on the bottom. It's going to be on top of the blue, okay? Now, I think the most common mistake you're going to make on this fly is putting way too much material on. If you notice the pictures in the example in our booklet that we got from the pattern book, so I've cut a little clump, okay? I can tell you right now that's way too much.
Yeah.
I've got some of these long ones. I can get rid of some of the bulk by just getting rid of some of the long ones. I see I've got some black ones in there. I don't want the black ones in there. I'm going to get rid of some of those black ones. So I have mostly just blue left. And I don't use a deer hair stacker. For some flies, you want all these deer hairs, you want them all the same length. But in this particular fly, I don't want that. I still have a few black in there, and I don't know how to get those out of there, so I think I'm just going to leave them. So I'm going to take this clump, and I'm going to kind of estimate, I want that tail to be about as long behind the bend as the hook shank itself. So I'm going to, that's right about there. It's going to be pretty close. So I'm going to take my scissors, I'm going to cut that off. I'm going to cut that off right about where I want to tie that in. I'm going to lay those up there, and I'm going to make 1 or 2 easy turns until I've got that attached. And you can see, if I move this the right way, that's pretty close to the length that we want for the tail. Now I've got to do the same thing. I've got to put a layer of white on there. So I'm going to grab some white. I'm going to have some, this hair is quite a bit longer. So I'm going to kind of look and see. I got a few that are way too long. I'm going to kind of peel that down. And you see some of these, if I can get it in there, some of these are shorter. If you grab the very end, see how the short ones are popping up? I'm just going to hit that with my finger. That's going to knock a lot of those short ones out. So let me see if I can get that out just a hair. Okay. Now I can lay that up. I want that to be as long as the other stuff. I may even have a little bit too much yet. I'm going to get rid of some of that stuff. And that's going to be pretty close. So I'm going to cut that off. I'm going to lay that on, make a couple of real easy wraps, and then I can cinch it down good. Okay? Now that I have both colors on, the body of this fly is no more than, I'm going to make some pretty wide wraps back to the bin. I'm going to try to fairly evenly space those. And then when I come forward, I'm going to try and crisscross those a little bit. I'm going to bring that back up to the dumbbell eye. And if my white has turned, now you can still twist your bundle, because I want the white on top. Okay? Now I'm going to build my thread base up a little bit behind that eye, and I'm going to half hitch that, because now I'm going to just turn this fly upside down in my vise. The hairs kind of get in the way, but they will straighten out when we're finished. Come on, get in there. There we go. Well,
It worked in the laboratory.
okay. Now that my eyes are a little wiggly, I will solve that before we are finished. Okay, and I'm going to make a few more wraps on those eyes to see if I can't make them a little bit more solid. If you get carried away with your figure eights, sometimes you'll end up where you're opposite where you want to go. If I were to finish this wrap, I have to wrap toward me. I don't want to do that. I want to make sure my wraps are still going away. Okay, and I'm going to leave my bobbin right behind the eyes. Okay. Now, we have the same two colors that we have to put on what will be the top of this fly. I noticed the pictures in the book are kind of reversed. They have the white on the top, both the top and the bottom. I don't know that it makes a lot of difference. I'll do what the book is doing, and I'll put some blue on so that it's more similar to the pattern in the book. I'm going to cut some blue off. Now, this application is going to be a little bit different. I've got a bunch of stuff I need to get rid of. Way too much blue. When you hit this with your finger, the short ones will kind of fall back out, and that's pretty good. So now this time, I want this to be the length of the other stuff, and I'm going to tie it in right behind the eye and try to keep my ties pretty close to the eye. Okay? Now I'm going to take my scissors. I'm going to grab that clump in front. I want to cut this, and I'm going to cut it at an angle. And I don't want to get it up in my eye, but I'm going to cut it at an angle so that when I tie this in, which I'm going to do next, do some easy wraps. I'm going to make sure I've got that attached good in front of my eye, and the bulk that I have to work with, that's going to form the head for this fly. And I don't have to get it completely in right now because I've got the white on top. But I'm going to leave my thread hanging behind the eyes again. And to wrap this up, I'm going to have to put some more white in. I'm going to grab another clump of that, more that I need. And I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I've got way too much white here, so I'm going to be picking out stuff that I don't need. I'm going to make sure I have all the short stuff, see it popping loose? That short stuff will pop loose, and if you stroke it, you'll end up with a bunch of short stuff in your hands. And now I've got probably about all I need. I'm going to lay this on, and I want it as about the same length as what I had before with the blue, and that's going to be pretty, ouch, pretty close right there. So I'm going to a couple of easy wraps to make sure I got it connected, so it's not going to go anywhere on me. I'm going to pull that up like I did the blue, and I'm going to trim that at an angle. And notice where I've got it trimmed, it's right, still back behind the eye. If you let that, you trim it too long, it's going to get in the way of your eye, and it'll cause a problem. So I'm just going to wrap this. This takes a bunch of wraps now to form the head. I've got to build that up in front of the bucktail a little bit so I don't have such a sharp angle. I'm going to do some figure eights here and build up that head a little bit. I'm going to build it up a little bit behind the eye. I'm going to build it up a little bit in front of the eye. Until I've got, a decent appearing head. And when I've got it as good as I think I'm probably going to get it, I'm going to go back behind and I'll whip finish this off. That material that Mac likes is also sometimes useful. One of my examples, I did some of that UV goop to build up the head a little bit, but what I would probably do if I did not use that, I would finish it off with a little bit of head cement, which I'm going to do. I'm going to put a little bit of head cement on that so that I know that those knots are going to stay tight. And do you not want to get it in your eye of the hook? I've got probably more goop on here than I need, but you get the idea. Now see how far off I am with the length. Not bad, but there is a Clouser Minnow. Okay. Pretty little fly.
Yeah, look at the monitor.
If anything, I may have a little bit too much bucktail on this one, given that the eye is such a small eye. But this stuff will sink. It'll get wet. It will not float like the bucktail that's on the front of the bucktail. There is a Clouser Minnow. Now,